Generally speaking, there is nothing worse than a draw in sports. Nothing gets resolved. The whole thing is ruined. It's like it never happened. I hate draws with a passion, and I'm sure all of you do too, but sometimes if I could be so good and just so compelling that when the outcome turns out to be no real outcome, you don't even care because you just witnessed greatness. So today we're going to look at the best fights ever that reached no conclusion at all.
Alright, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that is DraftKings. As you guys probably have already realized, this weekend is going to be a pretty explosive one in MMA. 296 is absolutely stacked. Colby Covington is back and going for his third title shot. You've got Pantoja Royval, Shavkat Wonderboy, Paddy Pimblett, Tony Ferguson. Unreal. And there is only one way that you can get in on the action, and of course that is with DraftKings. Live odds, fight props, and more, and of course, as always, they're giving brand new customers a banging deal. Right now, new customers, if you bet just $5, right, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. All you have to do is download the DraftKings app and use the code ONPOINT to get yourself started. As always, if sports betting is not available in your state, you can still get in all the fun. There's DraftKings Daily Fantasy. They still have huge cash prizes up for grabs in that as well. All you got to do is download the DraftKings app, use our promo code ONPOINT and bet just $5 and you'll get $150 in bonus bets. Enjoy the fights this weekend with DraftKings. The crown is yours.
I'm Tommy from MMA On Point. A massive thanks to our channel Hall of Famers, and these are 10 draws so incredible we didn't care nobody won. Number 10, Nazim Sadikov versus Vyacheslav Barshov. We kick things off with a bout that happened on the very recent UFC 295 card. You know you had a hell of a throwdown when you're on the prelims and you still get fight of the night. And like so many of the great draws on this list, it involves one fighter surviving an insane onslaught somehow at some point. Now, the first was fantastic. Crisp technical striking, tons of volume, something any fan could love, especially on a prelim you're just trying to get into the card. In the next round, about halfway through, Vyacheslav took a devastating head kick. I have no idea how he ate it, but he did, and he somehow managed to survive the next 2.5 minutes. After regaining composure, he went back out there and had a competitive third, enough to secure the round. This bloody violent affair was declared a draw, but you know how much these two didn't care? They were dancing afterwards, as you do when you put on such a banger. Awesome fun fight, low stakes in terms of the overall lightweight picture, but when fights are that good, who cares? Number 9, Darren Till versus Nicholas Dalby. Back in Dublin when Paddy Holohan was headlining cards, we got a welterweight prospect feature bout with two undefeated up-and-comers. Of course, Darren would go on to be the big star here, but Dalby was far more well-known in the UK, having been the Cage Warriors welterweight champion. After some fun feeling out and Till doing work, he would drop Dalby right at the horn to end the first. Round 2, Till again would look every bit of the star he would soon become, landing some nasty shots on Dalby. But in the third, Nick was like, I'm tired of being a punching bag, why don't I just beat the ever-living shit out of Darren Till? And that is exactly what he did. If there was one more round, hell, even one more minute, Till probably wouldn't have made it, but he would survive to the horn, making this Dublin fight of the night a draw. Two prospects coming in looking great, and hilariously nobody's O had to go because nobody won. Number 8, Bobby Green versus Lando Venata. Do you remember when Lando first got into the UFC? I mean, we all remember the insane fight with Tony Ferguson, but after that he got himself 3 more fight of the night bonuses and threw a really neat wheel kick finish in there. The dude was on fire in terms of being entertaining, and that early run would culminate in a real barn burner with everybody's favorite veteran, Bobby Green. Bobby at the time was having a rough run. He'd dropped 3 straight, which if you're not at the top of the card, you're hitting the bricks if there's a 4th one. In other words, Green needed to put on a hell of a performance, and man did he. It looked like this one was over fast though. Green got dropped and was getting beat up bad, but an illegal knee would stop the action and give Bobby time to recover and survive the round. The second would see Lando's face turned into ground beef, and the third would be a fun back and forth that ended in a flurry. Awesome damn fight of the night in fact. The point deduction for the illegal knee would make it a draw, but everybody left this one looking good. They ended up doing it again 3 years later and earned another fight of the night. That's some consistent ass kicking. Number 7, Demetrius Johnson versus Ian McCall. You know, we do often cite this fight in lists because it had such an unusual outcome and was historically significant, but today I just want to talk about how damn good it was. The flyweight division would eventually get a reputation of being lesser somehow for a while there, but I seriously doubt anybody was thinking that after this one. And this bout was of course a part of the introductory tournament to decide the first ever flyweight champion. A 4-man bracket making this a semi-final bout. And interestingly enough, because they didn't want draws in this tournament so they wouldn't end up with a repeat of what happened at lightweight with Penn and Uno back in 2003, there was a sudden victory stipulation. So if a bout went to a draw, there would be an additional round to get a definitive winner. More on that in just a bit. Rounds 1 and 2 would just be crisp, classic DJ, and of course McCall being a very high-level guy himself. The third is where this one got a fight of the night though, because man, DJ was in serious trouble twice. But particularly, he would end the fight getting absolutely battered on the ground. I'm surprised it wasn't stopped. Clearly a 10-8 for Uncle Creepy. Easy draw, right? We're going into that sudden victory round. Well, somebody wasn't mathing very well that night in Sydney, Australia, and DJ was announced the winner even though the cards got it right, and it was in fact a draw. Because they went into the back though afterwards, the fourth round couldn't take place, and we got this awesome draw and a second fight out of it. I'm happy if you're all happy. Number 6, BJ Penn versus Cal Uno. Hey, remember that fight I just referenced in the last entry? Yeah, so there was certainly reason to not be happy about this one going to a draw, especially in hindsight considering it left the lightweight title vacant for years and essentially doomed the division. But the fight itself, which usually only gets mentioned because of the disaster of it being a draw, never gets its due when it comes to the actual fighting itself, and damn, it is about time we changed that. So this was actually a rematch when Baby J came barreling into the UFC with his first 3 wins coming in the first round via knockout. Uno was his final victim on the way to the lightweight title, a blazing 11-second finish that saw Penn famously jet right on out of there afterwards like he had to catch a flight. Their second bout would come as the final of a 4-man tournament to determine the new lightweight champion. Man, maybe the UFC should stop doing these tournaments. For 2003, this fight is a gem. Truly back and forth the entire time. They were high level on the feet and the ground. There were some great scrambles and exchanges all the way through all 5 rounds. The stats on this one are hilariously even. Nearly identical strikes, takedowns, and control time between them. I know, it does suck that there was no winner and we lost the lightweight title, but the fight was objectively damn good. Number 5, Vandy Silva versus Mirko Cro Cop 1. The atmosphere on this one was off the charts. Man, nobody did it like Pride, I swear to you. And there was such a cool angle going into the bout. They booked it as an invasion by K1 into Pride. Now, we just call that cross-promotion these days, but damn it, what a cool way of framing it. The invader was Mirko Cro Cop, who actually already fought Takada at Pride 17, but that was different. With Vandy, the fans were getting a destroyer. 7 wins in Pride with 6 finishes, 2 of them over the beloved Kazushi Sakuraba. He had the Saku belt, he had the official middleweight title, and now he was going to fight a heavyweight kickboxer. Now, the special rules on this one had a very important stipulation for this list. If it went the distance, it was a draw. No judges involved. God, I really do love this fight. The stare down, so mean. The build beforehand, so good. The crowd is absolutely losing their minds, and Vandy was just doing his thing. Honestly, if there were judges on this one, Silva would have taken it, but it didn't matter. It was just fun. Great pace all the way through. Yeah, it was a draw, but who cares? It was amazing. Pride was the best thing ever. Number 4, Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Thompson 1. Everybody sleeps on this fight, and probably because the second bout sucked beyond sucking. That and this fight happened to take place on one of the biggest cards ever, where God King 2016 Connor became the double champ. But make no mistake about it, this one was an all-time great welterweight title bout. Woodley, the champion, was not a popular figure going into this first title defense. The 205 presser is where he famously made the boo beat. Oh man, the boo beat.
Boo! Boo, boo, boo! Boo! Boo, boo, boo.
Wonder Boy, on the other hand, well, what could anybody ever have said bad about the dude? He was nice as heck, and he kicked people's heads off. His 7-fight win streak more than put him in line for this spot, especially after defeating Rory McDonald, and so it was on at UFC 205. The tension of the first 15 minutes is hard to describe, waiting to see if Thompson would land the big one, or if Woodley would score another takedown and batter Wonder Boy again. All that gave way in the fourth to an explosion. I have no idea how Thompson survived or managed to be on top by the end of it, but it made for just an incredibly tense fifth, and wow, what a damn fight all the way through. 2 of 3 judges would scored a draw, and I think rightly so. Even if Woodley was at first confused about what would happen to the belt in such an instance, they would rematch immediately after this, and you know what, let's just not talk about that one, okay? Let's not bring everybody down. Number 3, Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. I mean, when your fight is so good that you basically save an entire division, who really cares about a draw, am I right? Flyweight by 2020 was in a very difficult spot. It seemed as if the UFC was ready to close down shop on it for half of Demetrius Johnson's reign, and while it looked to be safe after Henry Cejudo took the title, he vacated after his first defense to focus on bantamweight, leaving the division without any star names to keep it alive. Enter God of War and Lego Man. Figgy had already done his part to look like a legitimate champion by brutally defeating Joseph Benavidez and scoring a first-round stop of Alex Perez. Moreno's road was rocky and included a brief LFA detour, but a 3-fight run with wins over Kai Kara France, Jussier Formiga, and Brandon Brandon Royval got him to the dance. It was COVID times, they were at the Apex, not an ideal place to have one of the best fights ever. Not to mention, while Davison and Brandon were the main event, the real draws were underneath them. Cyril Gahn, Kevin Holland, Mackenzie Dern, Oliveira, and Ferguson, of course. I don't remember there being a ton of hype about that title fight, but by the end, everybody was on the flyweight bandwagon again. Your World MMA Awards 2021 Fight of the Year. This was everything that makes flyweight good. Fast, frenetic, they threw over 500 strikes. It was just a banger from horn to horn. A deducted point in the third for a cup shot by Figgy made this one a draw, but nobody cared because it was just awesome. So awesome, in fact, we did it 3 more times. Number 2, Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard. There are very few fighters that have had the longevity of popularity that Frankie Edgar has had in his career, and he hasn't done it by being a big talker. The guy just puts on a show, and the fight that really won him over with everyone was the second bout with Maynard. It's a rematch, but nobody remembers the first fight, probably because that one didn't matter and this one did. The lightweight title was on the line. Frankie had just finished securing the legitimacy of the belt in the eyes of the fans, who thought his first win over BJ Penn was a fluke. His second fight with the Prodigy would put that to rest, though. Everybody knew Maynard from Tough. He'd had some great UFC wins leading up to this one. The stage was set for what could end up being a banger, and that is an understatement. What makes this fight so special is, without question, Edgar's absolutely superhuman ability to survive the first round. The answer was knocked down 3 times in the first. He absorbed 47 strikes, a total that would be more than Maynard would land in the remaining 4 rounds. I do not know how the dude survived, but insanely he would rally in the second and take it on all 3 judges' cards. By the end, 1 judge saw it for Frankie, another for Gray, and the third called it a draw, a score that most people were satisfied with, even though the story of the fight was more so about how Edgar even managed to get that outcome. The Fight of the Year 2011 would be run back later that year, and Frankie would get a 4th round knockout to put an end to their epic trilogy. Number 1, Bigfoot Silva versus Mark Hunt. It had been a very long time since I'd seen this fight, possibly all the way back to 2013 when it originally took place, unless I'd done a video with an entry about this specific fight before. It's definitely been a while, and man, this one hit me like a ton of bricks. I did not expect it to be number 1. First and most importantly, this one was a fight night headliner in Brisbane, Australia, so the people were jacked to see Hunto. He was coming off an insane fight of the night loss to Junior Dos Santos in a title eliminator. Bigfoot had just had his second fight with Cain Velasquez for the title, and so while this one didn't necessarily have title implications, it was at the very top of heavyweight. The escalation throughout, going all the way up to the 5th, and the amount of damage and massive shots these two were landing on each other, it's really honestly something you need to experience for yourself if you've not already. Both guys are just a crimson mess at the end. It is a perfect heavyweight fight. I don't know how there could be anything better than this. The only thing that taints it is the elevated testosterone finding afterwards for Silva, but beyond that, man, never has there been another fight that went to a draw that nobody really lost. Like I said, probably the best heavyweight fight ever, and unlike the other entries, given that there was no title on the line, which does sour things a bit sometimes, I feel very comfortable putting this all-time classic at number 1. Another all-time classic, the editor of this video, Luke Taylor. Please follow him on all his socials, and please check out his YouTube channel. Another huge shout to our channel champions. I think one of them, in fact, suggested this idea for a list. If you would like to be one of them and be in our writers' meetings, hit that join button down there. Or like and subscribe, that would be very cool too. What is your favorite draw? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will talk to you again in the very near future.